At a crowded company party, my coworker loudly announced, "She's proof that anyone can get hired if they just smile enough, even if they have nothing going on upstairs." Laughter rang out as I pretended not to hear. What he didn't know was that I was already in talks with HR about a massive harassment investigation, and his badge was deactivated before he even got to finish his Monday morning coffee. It happened at our company's quarterly party in Milwaukee. We were on the 17th floor of a fancy downtown hotel, and everything was loud: music, laughter, glasses clinking. I wasn't even supposed to go. I almost backed out last minute because I just didn't want to be around any of them. Especially not him. His name is Nate. Late 30s. Always dressed like he was on a second job interview. Slicked back hair, loud voice, walked like he owned the place. On paper, he was top sales, every quarter. In reality, he was the kind of guy who made every woman in the office uncomfortable but was too smart to cross the line in a way that got him in trouble. At least not officially. He'd call people hun, make comments under his breath, or sometimes just say things straight to your face in a joking way. And no one ever stood up to him. Because HR never did anything. And because the bosses loved him. They called him a rock star. So that night, I tried to stay invisible. I hung near a wall, sipping soda. I was chatting with people I felt kind of safe around. I started to think maybe I could just coast through the night and leave early. That's when I heard him. I didn't see him walk over. But I heard his voice, loud, cutting through the music. "She's proof that anyone can get hired if they just smile enough," he said, clear as day. Then, even louder, "even if they've got nothing going on upstairs." There was this pause. Just a second. And then laughter. Real laughter. A group of people standing near him started cracking up like it was the funniest thing they'd heard all night. I froze. My back was still to them. I didn't turn around. I didn't say anything. I just stared down at the floor and acted like I didn't hear. But I did. Every word. I felt like I was shrinking inside myself. My heart started beating fast, and I couldn't feel my hands. I remember blinking a lot, trying not to let any tears fall in front of everyone. But what Nate didn't know, and what none of them knew, was that for the past 3 months, I'd been quietly building a case. I wasn't just another quiet girl in the office who laughed off his comments. I had been documenting everything. I had screen recordings. Voicemails. Slack messages. I had testimonies from 3 other women he'd targeted. One of them cried during our last call. Another had transferred to a different department just to get away from him. I had been working with someone in HR who finally believed me. A woman named Denise. She didn't say much at first, just kept asking me to bring what I had, piece by piece. She warned me it might take time. That she'd need everything. But she also promised they would do something once it was all laid out. I didn't fully believe her. I'd been disappointed too many times. But I kept going. 4 months. And by the time the party rolled around, we were already past the early stages. It had moved beyond HR. Legal was involved. An outside investigator had been hired. And they had quietly started interviewing people. Nate had no idea. When Monday morning came, I got to the office early. My stomach was in knots. I didn't sleep the night before. I kept thinking maybe they'd back out. Maybe he'd get away with it again. But around 8:45 a.m., I saw it happen. Nate walked in holding his usual iced coffee. He tried to badge in, but the reader flashed red. He swiped again. Still red. He leaned in, confused, looking at the screen. Then the front desk person stood up and said something to him. I couldn't hear what she said. But I saw his face change. I saw the way he frowned, then forced a little laugh like it was all a mistake. He started to say something else, but she pointed down the hall toward the security office. He stood there for a second. Then walked off. That was the last time I ever saw Nate in our building. After Nate was walked out, word spread fast. People were whispering all day, like something big had gone down, but no one wanted to be the first to say it out loud. Everyone acted confused, but not surprised. That's how it always is, people pretend they didn't know, but they knew. Everyone knew. I kept my head down and did my work. I didn't smile. I didn't talk about it. I didn't celebrate. Because it wasn't over. That afternoon, Denise from HR called me in. She closed the door, looked me in the eye, and said, "You did everything right. But you should be prepared. There might be pushback." I asked her what she meant. She sighed and told me that someone in Nate's old team had already filed a complaint. Not against him, against me. They were saying I'd created a hostile work environment by secretly recording conversations. Said I had broken trust. Said it was malicious. I felt my stomach drop. Just like that, I went from victim to problem. Denise told me not to panic. She said legal was already reviewing it and it was clearly a retaliation move. She said these things happen when someone high up finally gets held accountable. Still, it hurt. These were people I had lunch with. People I sat next to in meetings. And now they were calling me the troublemaker. That week got dark. Some people stopped saying hi to me. A couple even unfollowed me on LinkedIn. In the break room, I walked in on a conversation that went silent the second I opened the door. The temperature shifted everywhere I went. But then something happened that flipped everything. On Thursday, I got an email from someone I didn't know very well. Her name was Marcy. She worked on the 3rd floor in a department I barely interacted with. She asked if I had a few minutes to talk privately. I said yes, thinking maybe she was just curious. We met in one of the side conference rooms. She shut the door and sat down across from me. And then she broke down crying. She told me Nate had been harassing her too. Not just in the office, but outside of work. She showed me messages. Late-night texts. One time he followed her to her car and made comments about what she was wearing. She had never told anyone. She was scared. But when she heard what happened, she said she finally felt like maybe someone would believe her. I sat there, stunned. Not because I didn't think there were others, deep down, I always figured I wasn't the only one. But hearing it laid out like that, it was worse than I imagined. Marcy ended up joining the investigation. Then another woman came forward. Then 2 more. Each time, it felt like a dam cracking a little more. Like the silence that protected Nate was finally falling apart. But that also made things more tense. You could feel it in the air. People were picking sides. Some started talking trash behind my back, calling me a snitch, saying I was just bitter because I didn't get promoted last year. Someone even left a sticky note on my desk that said, "Hope it was worth it." I didn't cry. I didn't fight back. I just saved it. Photographed everything. Sent it to Denise. Because now I knew this wasn't just about Nate anymore. It was about the whole culture. The kind of place where someone like him could thrive for years, and the people who spoke up got punished for it. And I was done letting it slide. A week after Marcy came forward, something strange started happening. People in leadership started acting weird around me. Not just cold, strategic. I could feel it in meetings. I'd talk and someone would interrupt like I wasn't there. My assignments got shuffled around. I was suddenly removed from a project I'd been leading for months, no explanation. At first, I thought maybe it was just nerves, or the fallout from the investigation. But then Denise called me into HR again. Her tone was different this time, not cold, but careful. She closed the blinds before she spoke. "I need to tell you something," she said. "And I'm saying this off the record." I nodded, already tense. "There's a rumor going around that you're planning to sue the company," she said. "Legal hasn't heard anything official, but someone from the executive floor brought it up during a meeting. They're worried. I blinked. I'm not suing anyone, I said. Denise nodded. I believe you. But they don't. They think you're building a case. That was when it hit me. I wasn't just a whistleblower anymore. I was a threat. And then it got worse. 2 days later, IT accidentally wiped my work laptop. They said it was part of a scheduled update, but I'd never been notified. All my local files? Gone. Thankfully, I'd backed most of them up off network, but the message was clear: they were covering tracks, or at least checking how much I had. Then came the performance review. Out of nowhere, I was told I was being put on a PIP. Performance Improvement Plan. 3 vague complaints. Slow response time. Trouble collaborating. Unclear communication. It was a hit job. A quiet one. Designed to wear me down. To give them an excuse to push me out. I stared at the document and felt like screaming. But I didn't. I took it. I signed it. And I walked out. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, Leah. She used to work at our company. Left 2 years ago, no warning. We stayed in touch for a little while, then fell out of contact. But I remembered something she said to me once, back when she still worked there. If you ever feel like this place is trying to break you down, she told me, call me. I've been through it. I called. And when we met up for coffee the next day, she didn't just listen, she brought receipts. Turns out, Nate wasn't just harassing women at work. He was also part of a boys' club up on the executive floor. Golf trips. Late-night drinks. Off-the-record meetings. They all covered for each other. Leah had tried to report a VP once, and 2 weeks later, she was let go for structural reorganization. She told me names. Gave me old emails. Even had a copy of a written complaint she'd filed that mysteriously disappeared from her HR file. That's when I knew, this wasn't just about Nate anymore. It went higher. Deeper. This wasn't just some bad employee who slipped through the cracks. This company protected him. And they were still trying to protect each other. But I had something they didn't know. I had Leah. I had Marcy. I had 2 more women who'd come forward, and 1 more who was just about ready. And I had a lawyer now, a real one. I didn't plan to sue at first, but now? That might be the only way to make it stop. Because now I knew, it was never going to stop on its own. I never wanted to sue. But after everything that happened, the lies, the smear campaign, the people who smiled to my face while stabbing me behind my back, I knew I had no choice. The company didn't just protect Nate. They went after me to protect themselves. And they didn't care who got hurt in the process. So I filed. Hostile work environment. Retaliation. Discrimination. It started small, just me, my lawyer, and a file thick with evidence. But it didn't stay small for long. Once the lawsuit became official, everything cracked open. My lawyer, Melissa, was sharp, calm, and ruthless. She'd handled cases like this before. The kind where companies tried to bully people into silence. She told me from day one, they're going to panic. That's when we push harder. And she was right. The first thing the company did was offer me a settlement, $40,000 and an NDA. Melissa didn't even flinch. She slid the offer back and said that won't even cover her therapy bills. We didn't settle. That's when the real pressure started. They tried to bury us in paperwork. Delayed responses. Claimed my recordings were unethical. They even said my emotional distress wasn't valid because I'd never sought mental health treatment before. That was their mistake. Because I had started therapy. Weekly. I had letters from my therapist, records of panic attacks, insomnia, even physical symptoms, all tied to work stress. And it wasn't just me anymore. Marcy filed her own claim. Then Leah stepped in as a witness. She had kept everything. Emails. Memos. Even a voicemail from a VP who called her a liability 2 days before she got fired. By month 4, we had over 200 pages of documentation. By month 6, a journalist picked up the story. She reached out to me privately, said she'd heard whispers about a toxic culture at our company and wanted to talk. I hesitated, but something in me said, enough is enough. We met. I shared my story. So did Marcy. And Leah. 3 weeks later, the article dropped. Smiles, sales, and silence, the hidden harassment culture at company name. It hit hard. The article didn't name names, but people figured it out fast. Nate's friends on the exec floor started scrambling. One of them retired within days. Another deleted his LinkedIn. Their PR team tried damage control, but it was too late. Then came the internal audit. Turns out, it wasn't just harassment. There were shady deals. Expense fraud. Off-the-book bonuses. Nate had been covering for people, and they had been covering for him. The CEO issued a public statement, but nobody bought it. By month 9, the board was involved. And HR, the same department that tried to shut me down, was under investigation too. Denise, the only one who tried to help me, sent me a message after she resigned. It said, "You were the match that lit the whole fire. They won't forget you." And they shouldn't. We went to mediation next. They came back with a new settlement offer, high 6 figures. No NDA this time. I said no. I didn't want silence. I wanted truth. Eventually, the case was scheduled for court. And they knew they couldn't risk a public trial, not with all the witnesses, all the evidence, and now a federal agency looking into them too. They caved. The final agreement. Full payout of $875,000, public apology, signed by the CEO, posted on their own website for 30 days, a full independent audit of their HR department, and no more NDAs allowed in harassment cases, effective immediately across the company. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about dragging the truth into the light, no matter how ugly it was. As for Nate, he lost his job, his reputation, and his professional license. Turns out, he'd lied on several contracts. When his records got pulled during the audit, so did his credentials. He tried to move states and start over, but the article followed him. Every time he applied somewhere, it popped up. Every time he spoke at a conference, someone asked questions. Last I heard, he was managing a storage facility outside of Kansas City. Alone. Angry. Still blaming cancel culture. I never responded to the email he sent me 6 months after everything ended. It was full of fake apologies and excuses. Said he never meant to hurt anyone and that things just got out of hand. I didn't reply. He didn't deserve closure. As for me, I left the company. Started over in a smaller firm outside Chicago. I work with people who treat each other like humans, not stepping stones. I sleep through the night now. I don't flinch when my phone buzzes. I still have bad days. But I have peace now. And I earned it. All of it.